The Arts Office, Waterford City and County Council, is pleased to announce that the winner of the Keane Creative Writing Award 2023 is Vincent Barton from Blackrock, County Dublin. Warmest congratulations, Vincent. It's a fabulous story. Salvage. Mr. Smith's caravan rocked around the last bend on the laneway. There was a Mohican strip of grass all the way up the drive now, waving between the pocked gravel tracks. No money, I suppose. No slick tarmac to signal prudence and substance to the neighbours, whoever they were these days. Soft bubbles of rain were popping on the windscreen. Big rain. The house came into view. We stopped and the engine ticked softly. Mr. Smith looked over, wondering how I would react to the sight of the home place, I guess, hoping I wouldn't be spooked. "All right, Noel?" "Grand, Mr. Smith." My dark home. Victorian solidity and space. Family values in red brick with granite edging. It had a name, actually. Arcadia. Nobody in the town of Lismore or in the family ever used it. Only place I ever saw that name was on the fancy embossed paper Mother used for her correspondence, and on the occasional letters piled up in the brass-fronted box on the hall table. To the right of the house, the curved conservatory roof had lost a few panes. I could see rust blistering up on the iron glasswork supports, and through the panes a riot of green foliage. No lights on, and I'd no key. Maybe Mr. Smith had one. There were business-like pockets all over his grey workwear outfit. He was squinting through the blurry windscreen. Nothing stirring. There's supposed to be a caretaker fella. He opened the tinny door and levered himself out onto the gravel. "Come along so, Noel, we'll give it a rattle." And we did. The knocker on the door was a clenched fist in heavy metal. You sort of just lifted and dropped it, so it did the knocking for you. "Let me," I said. I'd always loved that knocker. Lift and drop. A hollow thump, with no sign of anybody coming. I raised and dropped the knocker again. This time we heard soft shuffling and scraping from behind the hall door. Mr. Smith was leaning forward like he could will it open through his superior mental powers. A face appeared as the door pulled open a crack. Ahead of the face was a heavy chain, stopping the door from pulling any wider. Yes, a young man's voice, not a local either if I was any judge. "How ya? I'm Noel." Young man, face blinked at me. "I used to live here." More blinking. "This is Mr. Smith," I said. "He minds me." The chain rattled and the door was pulled open. In the dark hallway I could see a dog. The youth was holding a stick. No, a gun, a rifle in fact. He held it awkwardly, as if embarrassed by the weapon. "Who were you then?" I said. He looked half scared, half determined to be in charge. "I'm Victor. I'm minding the house this week until the auction. It's just me here and Trigger." He waved the gun back towards the dog in the dark cave of the hallway. "And this," he indicated the gun with his free hand. It didn't have a name, apparently. "You're grand," I said. "I'm just here to have a last look. Mother said I could have anything I wanted. Just one thing, mind you, but I can choose anything I like," she said. I looked at Mr. Smith to back me up. He did, in fairness, nodding his big goofy head solemnly. There were raindrops gleaming in his buzz cut. "Noel here was the son of the house," Mr. Smith said to the young guy. He spoke slowly and nodded his head again to emphasize the last words. "Son of the house." Like I was the Dalai Lama or something. "He had to move out a few years ago. His mother's selling up now and she wanted to let him have something from the home place." Victor stepped back, satisfied, and in we went. I headed straight for the kitchen down the end of the hall, forgetting that Mr. Smith wouldn't be able to see a stem in the darkness. "Hang on," said the young lad. "I've got a light." A match flared. and I saw he had a dented enamel candle holder in his free hand with a stumpy church candle flickering away in it. A real Rip Van Winkle look. The pair traipsed after me down the hall. I noticed everything had a label on it, one of those old-style luggage labels with a number on it. Made sense. The long case clock at the end of the hall by the kitchen was number 202. They said nothing as I stood in the middle of the kitchen, scanning all the familiar shapes. Aga, big battered table, the Belfast sink with its brass taps like something on the Titanic. Out the back window there was still enough light to see across the yard to the roofless outhouses and their scorched granite walls. So what do you do, Victor, when you're not caretaking haunted houses? He smiled at this, more relaxed now. I'm a student up in Dublin. I'm studying classics. Classics, no less. Good man, good man. I'm a bit of a classicist myself, as Mr. Smith can confirm. Mr. Smith did nothing of the sort, so I added, surprisingly useful, no matter what they say. Victor nodded and looked relieved. Maybe he thought I was going to ask him to decline an irregular verb or something. I had a good look around the kitchen by the soft candlelight, and then headed off to inspect the downstairs rooms, my little squad following closely behind. There was loads of stuff laid out on tables, everything with its luggage label. I recognised things my brother and I used to play with, which Mother must have hoarded after we left. A stack of board games and stove-in cardboard boxes. Proud lead soldiers from an African regiment, all with bare feet. A globe which didn't spin anymore. Behind me I could hear Mr. Smith and the young fellow whispering. Smith filling him in on the backstory while I was busy with my nostalgia. Explaining about the fire in the stables, how it could have taken away the house, Mother, the whole shooting match. Then sotto voce, the final straw really, had to get him out of the place for his own safety and everyone else's. Still in all, ancient history now really, water under the bridge, as they say. Who's your favourite poet then? I said loudly. Victory was back blinking again. Sorry, he stammered. Your favourite Latin poet, scholar? Who do you fancy? Well, he said, probably Catullus. Catullus? Good choice. Mine too. Handy lad with the women, Catullus. Drove him mad in the end though, didn't they? Victor smiled. So they say. At least he had that excuse. Now where's my bird's egg collection? The bird's eggs in the case, said Victor, all eager puppy again. They're up on the landing, I think. I'll show you. Trigger galloped up the stairs, claws scratching in the gloom. The landing was huge, stretching the full depth of the house. 4 doors led off into large bedrooms. I remembered Harry and I used the full length of the landing as an indoor cricket pitch on wet days. At one end, a bay window gave out onto the front of the house. At the other, a sash window with floor-to-ceiling swag curtains looked out over the yard where the stables had once been, and then to the fields beyond. Hunting prints still hung on the walls, foxed and faded, each with their new numbered ticket. The display cabinet was in its old spot. It was a beautiful thing, I realised now, built in walnut on small curved feet, and a dozen drawers stacked one on the other, each with a round brass handle right in the middle. Under each knob there was a tiny square pane where you could put a label for the contents. It looked like a headless club doorman in a swanky buttoned-up uniform. We all huddled around the cabinet, even Trigger. I looked at the labels. Must have written them all myself, but for the life of me I couldn't remember what half of them meant. Passerellity, frigidility, calamity. I did remember well how egg collecting had obsessed me for years in my teens. The whole production, heading out to the woods and hedges looking for nests, tracking birds, climbing huge trees to check out likely looking sights, cradling the trophies all the way home. Then there was the business of blowing the contents out when you'd first pierced each end of the egg with a needle, taking care not to crack the bloody thing by going at it too hard. Finally, laying the weightless shell out on a swab of cotton wool in one of the boxes and drawer trays. They had to be all lined up the right way, polished, lustrous, sacred. This was always my thing, collecting stuff. Harry was good at music. He could paint too. Mother used to let him play the piano downstairs for guests until he got big enough and sensible enough to refuse. But I was a collector. Anything really, as well as the birds' eggs, it was stamps. Do kids do that at all still? They'd hardly know what a letter is, let alone a stamp. Insects, butterflies, seashells and rocks. Never went as far as pressed flowers, mind you. The collecting filled my head completely, and I loved it. I loved it entirely. I slid the middle drawer open. Fragility. A dry smell came up like a sigh from the cotton wool. Sure enough, there was a complete set of eggs there, tiny things in each box. "What are these then, Noel?" said Mr. Smith. "Finches, Mr. Smith, finch eggs." They were so small and light they wobbled as we breathed on them. The blue ones are bullfinches, I remember that much, and the whitish lads with the red blotches, they're chaffinches. After that you have me. In the candlelight, the bullfinch eggs were turquoise blue, some of them almost green, and all with swirling purple markings like trendy jewellery. I slid out a few more drawers, all those years untouched, but they each moved smoothly, like they'd been waiting for my return visit. Pick just one tray now, Noel. We can't take the whole cabinet with us anyways. We probably could, in truth. It'd easily fit into the back of the caravan if we tipped the seats down. I knew what he was at, though. No way Dr. Galler would be having that cabinet in my room, taking up space and collecting dust. So I levered the tray of finch eggs back out, holding my hand carefully under it like a waiter in a French cafe. Victor led us back to the hall door. It was fully dark now, and he stood there with his candle, snatching at the wind, as Trigger panted and drooled alongside him. In the car, I kept the drawer of eggs on my lap. Mr. Smith turned on the engine. "See you, scholar," I said out the window. Victor just waved. "You pleased with what you rescued, Noel?" said Mr. Smith, concentrating hard as he renegotiated the battered driveway. "I am, Mr. Smith, I am surely. Nice to have something from the old place anyways. A memento. Me-mento," he pronounced it. A memento, indeed. Picked up speed as we made our way out into the tarred road. Again, the darkness sucking us into itself. On my lap, the eggs rocked gently in their whispering nests. My heart ached for their hollow beauty.